All right, welcome back to the Three Stooges. We also thought about naming the show the Three Troubled Guys, something like that. We're all over the place. But Joe Davidson, Georgeson, and Chris Jackson, we cover high school sports big time in this region. We enjoy what we do. We touch on serious topics like player conduct, coaching conduct, fan behavior, but mostly we talk about the really good of high school sports, which is in the heart of the section championships for boys and girls basketball. Those title games are a real treat. At Golden One Center on Friday and Saturday, there'll be six divisions girls, six divisions boys, and then the NorCal, CIF NorCal start next week. All section semifinalists advance to the NorCal. So some of the teams that lost last night, their season's not over. They just want to they will not have a chance to play at Golden One for the section finals. But we've talked about this, guys, and the coaching in this area, girls coaches, whether it's the Division Six fighting Tedmans at Sacramento Adventist with Coach Tedman, superbly coached, to Sheldon and Folsom boys in Division One, superbly coached. And I mean fundamentals, sharing the ball. All the offensive players know how to handle the ball, ball movement. It's just such a joy to watch. It's not gotten stale or old around here. I've been doing this forever, and you guys are going to be doing this forever, and you'll find out. And Jordan, you know what I'm talking about when you talk about certain schools and teams, and same with you, Chris Jackson. And so we're siding up. We're just going to kick it around and recap some of the things that happened last night. I'm going to start off. I thought Sheldon and Folsom had an absolute clinic in the large school Division One semifinals. Folsom owned the first half. They were up 27-11. Great ball movement. Everybody involved. Three-point shooting. Jovan Dulé, Parks Weaver, Jack Scholl. I mean, what an impressive team. So then how did Sheldon win the game? 72-65, because they put the defensive clamps on in the second half and took over. Baron Sabir, 6'5" junior shooting guard, 30 points. And just wow. And the place was rocking and rolling and loud. And Jordan, you have the Placer girls, the Placer boys. What's going on with them? How'd they do last night? How cool is it at Earl Crab Gym, one of the great venues anywhere in America? And they'll be playing a doubleheader of sorts this weekend in Division Three. What a thrill for that school that's been waiting for this for a while.
Oh, absolutely. And I was kind of banking on that doubleheader happening last night. My general rule of thumb is I try not to cover one seeds in the first two rounds of the playoffs because, I'm expecting you're going to be going kind of far. And when I saw they both got the one, the possibility of getting that playoff doubleheader in the semifinals was there. And that's one always jump on. It's a great crowd for it. It's great seeing the student sections get there early. This one was no exception. Then it was two great games last night too. Placer girls beat 12 Bridges 52-39. Placer looked like they were in control of that one handily, and then 12 Bridges ended first half on a 16-3 run to have it be tied in halftime. They led briefly in the third quarter, and then Placer's Brooklyn Dunkel, the junior point guard, just took over, scored 9 points in the game, all nine in the fourth quarter. She helped them pull away, and how about this? This is a crazy stat. I mean, this Placer girls team is 29-2. It feels like, they've been a contender for years. I can think of a couple times they made, runs to the semifinals. I think they had made five or six straight semifinal appearances since their last section championship, just in terms of, losing those semifinal games. But Tony Camelucci has been there for probably during his stints a grand total of probably 30 years. This is his first time coaching in a section championship game. And it's Placer's first time back there for girls basketball since 1990. That feels crazy to say when you think of some of the teams they've had, some of the girls that have come through there. But then you remember, some of these playoff runs were before continued success rules were in, and these Placer teams were running into St. Mary's in the semifinals, or Bandon in the semifinals, or Sac High when they've had some powerful teams, El Camino when they've had some great teams. So it's kind of just been some unlucky draws there for them. But I mean, it's crazy to think a program like that is going to the section championship for the first time in 35 years, especially when, you consider the banners you see in that gym and the pride they have with that program. And when you consider the class they have. I mean, we mentioned it a few times on here, but they don't have a senior in the starting lineup. Feels like a different kid stepping up any night. This is really the first year they've had everyone all together because one of the star players, Ginger Biddle, missed all of last season with a knee injury. Freshman year, Brooklyn Dunkel missed her entire season with a knee injury. But this group is, I mean, a special group, man. A great environment in that gym last night. Those girls fed off it too. And I mean, you could see what it meant to them and the emotion in them. But what I like too is that you could tell, hey, they had their celebration. We're going to Golden One. By the time they were back out the locker room after that game, it was all business, and they know that they have a job to do. And hey, it's a great experience to play a Golden One, but there's a lot more to be done if you want to be raising a banner. And East Union's going to be a solid opponent. And on the men's side, what a game that was. Placer and Christian Brothers, it's one I think everyone's kind of had circled, feeling like these two are on a collision course with each other. Placer is a team that's struggled to get over the hump in recent years. I think they had 2 or 3 straight quarterfinal losses, semifinal loss a year before that. And it kind of just felt like even when they were, top 2, 3 seed, it's like, when are they going to get over the hump and, get to Golden One finally? And they did it last night. They were up double digits in the fourth quarter at one point, and I think they were up 13 at the half. But you kind of just knew Christian Brothers was going to make a push. They played a strong game, and it just was kind of like, hey, when's the door going to open for you? Because Placer was hitting everything in that first half. And the doors did open. Christian Brothers got down to a one possession game a few times in the fourth, but Placer held on to win that one 83-78. Cannon Rector had 38 points. Emmett Rose had 27. But this is the most impressive thing about this game for me, I think, is Placer was up by 5 with about 4.5 minutes left. Starting center Jeremiah Reedy fouls out, and he was going up against Christian Brothers' strong 6'8" freshman center who was having a great night. And it kind of felt like, hey, that's going to be a gut punch. Joe Guthrie, the backup center, is he going to be able to come in and really step up and fill that role? He comes in, knocks down 4 free throws in the fourth quarter, got a huge block late in the game. But then also, Placer loses Joe Manley about a minute after that, another one of their key scorers, part of that big three, probably a 3-point game when he goes down. And then Cannon Rector picks up his 4th foul with 3:10 left, and Placer's up, I think, 4 or 5 at that point, too. And it's kind of like, okay, this is about to, you could just feel the gym kind of thinking, hey, this is going to swing in Christian Brothers' favor. CB is about to take this over. And I think you saw some Placer fans kind of going, oh man, here we go again. Instead, Rector plays flawless these last couple minutes, doesn't get that foul. Placer gets a few huge stops at the end and pulls this one away. And the 83-78 is a little misleading in terms of, Christian Brothers kept it so close in the fourth, but also that last minute, Placer was really pulling away, and Christian Brothers hit a couple of shots in those last couple seconds to make it closer. Credit to that Christian Brothers, though. That was an incredible comeback they had. That's going to be a fun team to watch. And credit to Placer for finally getting over that hump. And I think, the thing that was the coolest part about it is talking to Placer coach Nate Sweezy after this. His dad passed away a year or two ago. He was a coach at Placer. Nate played at Placer. His brothers played there. His dad went there. His grandpa went there. He's a 3rd-generation Hillman. Cannon Rector, I think, is a 2nd or 3rd-generation Hillman as well. Placer hasn't won a basketball title since 1988. It's their lone basketball championship in boys hoops. Haven't been to the championship since 2018. You could just see what it meant to these kids to get to Golden One and, just kind of give this community an opportunity that's been so happy with basketball and so heavy on basketball to finally hang another banner in that gym. It's cool to see that. And shout out to Christian Brothers fans too, because that gym was packed. It felt like a true 50-50 game. That place was roaring. Christian Brothers brought their cheerleaders too. They had the surplus of basketball kids they pulled up from the JV program that were sitting in the stands because there wasn't room for them on the bench. It was standing room only in there. If the fire marshal was there, I think everyone would have gotten fined. Don't quote me on that. Okay. I'm just giving my over dramatic exaggeration. So no fire marshal can use this. But that, I don't think I've ever seen that gym that packed. And a big testament to that was Christian Brothers fans for traveling so well.
Oh, that's really well done. And, such cool pride up there for the Hillman up in Auburn. And they will come down in numbers. I don't think there's any doubt there'll be a big crowd. This is what's going to be fun. So the girls section Division III championship, the Placer Hillman top seeded, not no single senior starters. They'll take on East Union and Manteca, 2 p.m. at Golden One Center, followed by the boys top seeded, all that star power, great coach, cool. I always love that stuff about third generation. Grandfather went there and his father went there. And so cool for that. And then, so the boys will be taking on Bayer of Modesto. And Casa Roble is not in this field. They were eliminated, the defending champs in Division Four, moved up, but they got upset. So Wendell Witt, I haven't said that name in forever. He was the coach who led Placer girls to the 88 section championship. Oh, I'm sorry, the boys championship. And then this is probably Placer's best girls team since 1989 or 90. I can't remember, but one of those seasons, Placer went to the state finals in the Oakland Alameda Coliseum. And Jim Mallory was the coach, and he used to wear this green blazer like he just stepped off the Masters, in Augusta. And I remember once writing a story years ago, say it didn't take a Columbo or a private detective to figure out that the girls' basketball team needed some stability, but they hired a private investigator anyways. That was his job. Jim Mallory was this low-key private investigator, no emotions during game, but a delightful guy. And they, in 89 or 90, he takes this team. They had a girl named Krista Gannon, big 6'2" girl. I think she transferred in, trains the program. They get to the state finals, 9 a.m. tip-off against Brea Olinda of Southern California. I think they were the number two ranked team in America, had like a 70-game winning streak, and Placer thumped them. And before that game, the Brea kids were taunting Placer Hill Gals. What's a Hill Gal? Well, the Hill Gal showed them what a Hill Gal was. So it's been a long time coming for that great school, and there we are. But Chris Jackson, you were in Carmichael last night. You got to see a thriller. Anytime Tim Kelly is coaching, it's probably going to be a coaching clinic. We saw that in the state finals last year in Division Two. So here they come out for another run. And I'm sorry, Jesuit played Wood Creek. Nice win there, Chris Jackson. Now they get Destiny Christian, which has been aiming for Jesuit for years. Lost them twice in the playoffs last year in section play and NorCal play. How did Jesuit look, and how do you size up the Marauders versus Destiny Christian? That would be Friday at 8 p.m. for the Division Two.
Right before I do this, I'll give a shout out to their rival, to Christian Brothers. They won't be a Golden One, but I'm sure it was an emotional night for Jermaine Brown, right? Their head coach, the Burbank High School grad, 3500 Foreign Road. It was a year ago today, February 25th, after that semifinals game against 12 Burgess, where he had that stroke, right? And he did not coach that section championship game. The team FaceTimed him in the press conference room. That was super awesome. He got to coach this year. He coached that semifinals game last night. So, I'd still chalk it up as a championship just in life, right? To be able to come back from that, because there was probably a lot of doubt if he would coach again, heck, even coach this year. So shout out JB. That's freaking awesome. Jordan, I know you cover that. I'm sure that was emotional for JB and Christian Brothers, just to kind of to have that moment again and be in that semifinals with him on the sidelines there. But
And they're not eliminated.
yep, they
Just
go
to
to state
remind
now.
folks that they still are in the state tournament, but great call. We touched off on this episode of the Three Stooges about some of the great coaches. He's one of them. Great call, Chris Jackson, on just the support that people have. The Shannon Foster of the girls team, top seeded, or they're going to be in the section finals too. They're buddies. So yeah, these things we hear family, family, family. Oh, it's too much. No, it's really true. But anyway, so what did you see in Jesuit Wood Creek? You texted last night that it was another clinic on how to play defense.
It was a clinic on how to play defense, and it was a clinic just on unselfish basketball. Both of these head coaches, Tim Kelly, the former NorCal Coach of the Year by us last year, won their first ever state title in their third trip to state. And then Hibbs on Wood Creek, right? He's won state at Foothill. He's had some really good teams at Wood Creek. This was a team that looked like it might have a chance to maybe get that first blue banner since, right? Jordan Brown was on campus before he then went to prolific prep. But Tim Kelly, man, he's always got a game plan for you. He's always got it defensively. If you remember that game plan, that defense against Elijah Arenas and Chatsworth last year in that D2 state final, a 5-star, implemented a lot of the same stuff facing Max Van Lanningham of Wood Creek, the Long Beach State signee, 6'8", 3-star, all that. Van Lanningham's still going to get his stuff. He still snatches rebounds where it's like, how in the world did somebody get that? He's just got sheer force of will, length, smarts, IQ, but they denied him the ball, got the ball out of his hands, had 11 points, six below his season average. Wood Creek, who averaged 63 going into this, had 43. against Jesuit at 51-43 when Wood Creek had 16 points in that first quarter. Michael Kirby had 9 of them. Then he picked up his second foul there late in the first quarter, sat for a bit. The rest of the game, Wood Creek had 27 points. You had various stretches of guys stepping up, like Mason Phillips, the sophomore. He was a hero in that state final last year. He had 8 in the second quarter, 13 for the game, hit some big threes, showed a lot of emotion out there. But what you saw with Jesuit was that defense, the way they play, and just the future of this program and the present, right? Because then Brandon Williams, their point guard last year, 18 points. He had one stretch in the second half where he scored 11 in a row. Wood Creek got within one. It was just Brandon Williams taking over. Mid-range basket coming off a screen, off the right side, 40-37, goes back inside, 42-37. And it was, this kid was just locked in. He was smiling out there. It was, and Carson Keplinger had his moments early on. And then Greg Dufosse, the Modesto Christian transfer, moving into Jesuit. It's a different culture, a different standard, right? There is 6:40, 6:45 a.m. lifts. You've got school, you've got film, you've got practice. It's essentially like a schedule of a college program. He's fit right in. He had the big offensive rebound when it was a 6-point game, missed a shot. He came in, I think 110 left. He came from the right side, snatched it, sealed that game. Jesuit, defending state champs. They were this close last year before Rockland had just that heroic finish in the last, what was that, 15 seconds with a three and then steal and basket where it was, I think it was 45-41, then it was 46-45. They came back and won state. Jesuit returned a solid amount of those guys from that team, graduated 4 seniors from that group, but still, Tim Kelly, their head coach, iterated, guys, we're a different team this year. We need to leave our own standard, our own legacy. This is a program with a lot of history. Where you look at their history, Festus Ezeli's come through there, Andrei Stojakovic, Isaac Fontaine. There have been, I've named 3 of them. There's been a lot of guys that have come through Jesuit basketball, but this is a group making its mark. You saw that arena was packed, especially late in that ball game. That student section was loud. They were rowdy. They were chirping. They were having some fun with the refs too, and the refs were laughing about it. That's just the way it goes, right? They knew it wasn't anything personal, nothing serious. It was just let's have some fun, let's be teenage kids, and it was everything you could kind of script of what Jesuit basketball is. You play within that system, but then that also allows you, look at a guy like Brandon Williams has that balance of playing system basketball, but also utilizing his own freedoms as a player inside that system that Kelly mentioned post game. But they're back in the section final, their 20th trip. They can win, I think they're 10th if they win it this year. So close last year. They won state last year. This looks like a team that's got that championship DNA. They're just bought in. They're selfless. They don't care who scores. There's talented kids on this team that could put up a lot of points if they want, especially in Mason Phillips. And he just looked giddy as can be watching Brandon Williams, Keplinger, Greg Dufosse, all these other guys make their own plays and make their own name. But now Jesuit's got Destiny Christian, who's super athletic. Joe, you mentioned that Jesuit beat them twice last year. One of those in that NorCal final. Destiny's got, they've got some guys, right? They're playing great basketball. It's a huge win over Sac-High because Sac-High was rolling. I thought Sac-High would win that game. They beat Sac-High 61-44. You've got guys like Mo Kamara, Miles Wiggins, guys with offers, right? Frederick Blue is another senior guard who's really played well. Nick Andriotti. That's a team that's super talented, but Jesuits had Destiny's number over, what is it, the last 12 months. They had their number last year, but again, new year, new teams, right? Even if you bring back a lot, it's still a new identity in a lot of ways. I'm excited for that one, though. I mean, Golden One's going to be jumping for that, too. That's the final game of Friday. I just can't wait to be at Golden One. Heck, I might just sleep outside of Golden One. I don't care. I hear it's going to be actually nice weather tomorrow and Friday, so what do I care if I sleep outside Golden One at that point? What, I'm just that excited, but I'm sure Jesuit and Destiny is sure they'll bring a lot of fans to this. It's the marquee game on a Friday night. You can't really script it better than that. But Jesuit playing its best basketball at the right time. Tim Kelly just coaching them up. If there's a guy that can figure out any kind of scheme, game plan, I think I had said it to Jay, their strength and conditioning guy before the game, asking us about their scout, their game plan. Like, hey, like, what is it against Wood Creek? What do you got to do against guys like Max? He's like, man, that kid's a load. I just hope we can contain him. I think I'd said if there's one guy that can, I just pointed right at Tim Kelly. It's him, and that's a guy that's figured out the 5 stars, 3 stars, 4 stars, everybody. And don't be surprised if Jesuit has another masterpiece coming Friday night. And kind of gets their own revenge in that section final.
Oh, wouldn't that be great? And it's Destiny Christian for decades was Capital Christian. Church changed over 2 years ago. The open division for state basketball started like in 2012 or 13 or so. And Capital Christian was one of those early teams. There were coaches back then who fought against it. They said, no, we'd rather play for the Division 5 state champions. We could be number one. What, and play a 10 a.m. game? Or you want to play with the big boys? You guys insist that you're the big boys. And that kind of changed their attitude because people were laughing at them. You're going to play a state schedule early in the season, but then you want to just pound on the Daenerys and Mariposa counties just to hang up a banner. That's backwards thinking. They don't think like that anymore. So this will be great. And Miles Wiggins had a thunder dunk last night against Sac High, which was big. And I suppose it can't be too big of a surprise that Destiny won that game because Destiny's got the veterans, the seniors, where Sac High's got so much more inexperience. And I think one thing the three of us have seen over the years in high school sports, the veteran teams usually win. This is after Jordan just said, "Hey, Placer Girls don't have any seniors, but they're the veteran team," and that's what happened there. So onward, let's take a look at back to you, Jordan. Is there another team or a player that you're curious about, boys or girls, this weekend for section championship basketball? And then I'll throw over to you too, Chris. But while you guys are pondering that, here's a little flashback. We always remind people on this show, hey, you gotta watch your behavior. Whether you're a coach or you're a fan or a player, an assistant coach, you will get thrown out. If you're pushing the limit, if you're mouthy and rude and you're unloading on the referees and everybody thinks they're getting hosed on, they will throw you out. There was a few years in the late 90s, early 2000s when the section championships had some bad blood. And this was all a carryover effect from the Michigan Fab Five with Weber and Jalen, all those guys, terrific team. But they played with swagger and they would step over guys and stand over guys and taunt. And it completely sprinkled down to the high schools. And every game was a taunt fest, just out of control. And it seeped right into the section finals. And I remember one year, Napa and Davis were two Division I heavyweights, and they were playing a game. And a Napa player, maybe he was from Vintage, but either way, they were from the city of Napa. And they're in a lane during a free throw, and a Napa kid takes his elbow and boom. No, it was a Davis kid. A Davis kid takes his elbow and hits the Napa kid and knocks him down. And the referee went over there and threw him out. The father of the Davis kid came charging out of the stands, ran up the scorer's table. I'm a lawyer. I'll sue everybody. You get him back in that game. Then they showed the replay on the Jumbotron. This is at Old Arco Arena, and you could see it. And the color ran out of this guy's face, the father, and he sulked back up. And somebody said, "Get him out of here," and go back up to the stands. Pete Sacco was the section commissioner then. He said, "We got to clean this up." What he did, he implemented change that is still there today. And over the years, we've had no incidents. And what that is before the games, the section finals, the section commissioner will meet in the back tunnel with a team captain of both teams, a coach, an administrator, and a referee. And basically, that's your first warning. This meeting is your first warning. This is our premier event. And if there's any of this boorish kind of bad behavior, we'll throw you all out of here. And you'll also sit out games, maybe the rest of the games in the playoffs because the CIF has that authority. And it's gone without incident. And thank goodness because, hey man, this is a premier event in a great venue. Don't sully it by looking like a bunch of bad sports. So I haven't seen anything of note in the last several years. I don't think you guys have it either. It's a real credit to the late great Pete Sacco and Mike Garrison, the commissioner in the last several years in his place. Has carried on this tradition. But Jordan, back to you, sir. Size up a team, a player, a matchup of note, boys or girls.
I think one that I really have my eye on, and I think everyone's kind of been thinking that these two are on a collision course for each other as well. But how about this Christian Brothers Antelope Girls D2 matchup? Top two seeds in this division kind of felt like, hey, they're both really primed to run into each other. I think it's going to be a great matchup between those two. Christian Brothers definitely had to survive a little bit of a scare the other or last night. They played against third seed Del Oro. Dio's girls gave them everything they could handle. They were leading most of the game. Christian Brothers took the lead, but then fouled Del Oro's Maddie Poe with 0.2 seconds left. She hits 2 free throws to send the game into overtime. Christian Brothers hangs on no T though, but I'm excited to see this one. Two programs that are used to being at this stage. I think that's going to be a great game. And then how about in Division 6 girls, the Fighting Tedmans of Sac Adventist taking on Forest Lake Christian. How cool is this story for Forest Lake Christian? That's a program that up until COVID was a regular at these section championships. Felt like they were kind of a small school powerhouse up in Lake of the Pines. And then they haven't been back since the pandemic happened. They've been knocking on the door a few times and the program fell on some hard times. And to see them be back here this year is great. They came through and beat Lodi Academy in that first round. Then how about this? Beating Sac Waldorf, who beat them twice in the regular season. They go to their house and win by 18. And now, hey, they're 17-8. They've won 8 in a row. And I mean, they have every reason to feel confident going into this game. But what does our good friend, the judge, have up his sleeve to win this one? I think that's going to be one of the best games of the weekend. So if anyone wants to get out there for that 10 a.m. Friday game, it's going to be worth your money. I think Forest Lake Christian can really kind of give Sac Adventist a tough time, and I'm interested to see how that chess match is played out. And again, these are two teams that, for all we know, they could see each other again with NorCal's looming. That's kind of the big thing with section championships is, you're dogpiling on the court on Saturday, winning a banner, but you're back at it Tuesday, and your season could be over with a loss. There's no insurance after this weekend. So, but that's another one that those two games for girls are really the two that I have my eye on this weekend.
Oh, that's really good stuff. I totally agreed. Antelope and Christian Brothers have been our top ranked teams in girls basketball. Sacramento Bee by Nick Pecoraro. Christian Brothers most of the time, and terrific coach is Shannon Foster. She's in another title game. They've won championships. They've lost heartbreakers there. Antelope with Sean Chambers. He was a section champion on a 33-1 Highlands team back in 1983. The Highlands Scots people don't remember, but they were a powerhouse, and they weren't playing. Arco Arena wasn't around in 1983, so those were at UC Davis. So great memories for those guys. The Sac Adventist girls take on Victory Christian, I believe, on Friday at 10 a.m. You just alluded to that. And then it's followed by the boys, Sacramento Adventist boys, also the top seed taking on Victory there. And so let me just double check, girl, because the judge is listening. And if we have the wrong opponent,
It'll be
we want to be
It's Forest Lake Christian for girls and then Victory Christian for boys.
there. You go, because he'll slap us with a bench warrant,
As he should,
all of us for
Put us through the
misinformation. So
judicial system.
that's exactly right. And the girls, Grin Rosich of Sac Waldorf and Kyla Friedrichs, two great two fantastic players. So Coach Tedman led the boys to a section championship a few years ago. Now he's doing coaching the girls. Just a great boost for that school. And Chris Jackson, thoughts on another matchup, a player of note that we should ponder at Golden One Center for the Sac-Joaquin Section basketball championships Friday and Saturday.
I'm first going to go to the D5 girls game where it's Bret Hart defending D5 section champs, the 1 seed, against Faith Christian, the 2 seed, defending D6 section champs and defending NorCal champs. Bret Hart, seemingly brought back everybody from that team. They just beat Woodland Christian last night. Another great effort from them. They've got Maddie Kane, Eltringham, another coach's daughter. And then Faith Christian's got a coach's daughter too, Lauren Harris, who was a record holder in everything. She was one of those who was a McDonald's All-American nominee finalist out there. She holds national three-point records, regional scoring records. Who knows what other records she can break here soon. I'm sure there's probably one she'll break at Golden One that we don't even know about yet, right? But you've got her, you've got Presley Berry and a Concordia Irvine. That's going to be a super fun game because Bret Hart's coach also mentioned they don't have anybody over 5'7", and they're going to be facing a team in Faith Christian who's got someone a lot taller, Presley Berry, who's really coming to her own with their shot. An elite defender, gets her hand on that basketball, it feels like every possession. So that's one to watch. And then let's also go to that D4 girls game where Central Catholic, having a tremendous season, one loss all year, was to East Union, who's in that D3 girls final, and then they came back and beat them later in the year. They've got Samantha Nichols on this team, who is a Florida softball commit, hit like 600, maybe 700 last year. I know there was another Florida softball commit at Vanden that hit like 710 also, which goes to show you how good this girl is at every sport. Then West Campus went on the road, beat Liberty Ranch. That was interesting seeding to me because West Campus had beaten Liberty Ranch earlier this season, but then they have to go on the road to Liberty Ranch. Obviously, did not make a darn difference. They go on the road, win by 10, beat the defending champ, Naomi Johnson, over 20 points. Lowe's Mary Justice, like 19 rebounds, had a double double again. That's as good of a duo as you're going to see in this section and at this level. So that's another game you're going to want to keep your eyes on because I think either team can take the cake in that one and get that blue banner. Those are two ones, D4, D5 girls that I'm super excited for all the games. If I'm being honest with you, I can't wait for 10 a.m. Friday for that D6 girls game and then D6 boys after. But these two games, these two girls games are going to be electric. You're going to want to get there early to watch Lauren Harris and Presley Berry and those girls face Bret Hart. And you're going to want to watch just a legendary softball player just play for Central Catholic and play against a West Campus team that's picked up some big wins this year, has beaten Liberty Ranch twice, and has a couple of girls that seems like they're getting double doubles and they're scoring 15, 20 points every single night.
Yeah, no, that's you talk about the West Campus girls of the Sac City Unified. John Langston's their coach. On this general theme today of great coaching, great man, great coach, led Sac High girls to section championships, coached the great Vicky Baugh, who played at University of Tennessee, played some professional, one of the all-time great players, big 6'3" post. He's won two CIF state championships at West Campus in a state final. So they always kind of hover under the radar. They don't play a national schedule. It's a West Campus is an academic boot camp. You mentioned Naomi Johnson and some of the other players, Chris Jackson. So they're coaching makes a difference in these kind of games and the calm and the nerves. And we know that the big spacious confines of Golden One can work on your nerves. You know, the depth perception is off, and there's no gym in high school in this section where you have all that wide open space. So if you're on the free throw line or trying to size up for a three, you see all that space up there behind. And sometimes we see that there's a high school 3-point line and the NBA line because it's the home of the Sacramento Kings. Sometimes they get confused and but it takes a little time to settle down and teams hope that they're not down by 16 at halftime. They just can't come all the way back. But a reminder that all of these games at six divisions for girls, six divisions for boys. Our good friend Matthew Bissett will be on the call for ABC Jam Productions by way of NFHS Network. Nick Pecoraro will be on some of those calls. So will the judge, Scott Tedman. Tedman is very impressive, but there's no way he's going to be able to coach his game and do color at the same time. He might have some colorful metaphors, but it won't be on the air if you follow my drift. But there's a guy who's not stoic or boring in any way. But, all right, I'm going to size up boys Division One. Big boys versus big boys. Sheldon beat Folsom in a semifinal. We talked about that earlier. Modesto Christian's got more section titles than anybody. I think they've won 30 in a row, 30 consecutive league championships. Just been a powerhouse. No losses in section. New coach this year has been on staff for a long time. A lot of stability. Joey Rawlings and his crew have been there for a long time. So here we go. And I think if Modesto Christian wins, that's an automatic entry to the Open. They've been in all 10 or 12 Open games. Sheldon's been there in a few times, won it a couple of times. This should be really good. If Sheldon could bring its big marching band, which was the thought last night, I was talking to the principal and Jason Bumbaka, the athletic director, because that's such a cool vibe. Chris Jackson, you've heard that before. Jordan, you'll hear it on Saturday. It's just, you got to yell to be heard. And Sheldon's got Baron Sabir and Tay Carter, a terrific backcourt, relentless, prolific, just tough as nails. Modesto Christian's got Sincere Hudson. If he sounds familiar, he was a 3-year starter at Intercom of Sacramento, transfers down to Modesto Christian. He's tough as nails. And boy, did Ken Manfredi, speaking of great coaches, give Modesto Christian a game, push the wire. Best season that Franklin's had in years, most wins in program history. They're going to be in the NorCal Division One playoffs, so they're not done. Aiden Rollins is back. It almost pulled that big upset down in Modesto Christian. So Another great one. And so that will cap the section championships as the big boy game. Chris, let's go back to you real quick before we go to Jordan. The girls' Division One, St. Mary's Rams of Stockton, been here a bunch of times. They've won more than 20 section championships, most ever. Taking on the defending champs, McClatchy Lions of the Sac City Unified. McClatchy with a nice win at number two seed Oak Ridge last night up in El Dorado Hills. Great coaching. Brianna Dolgar is a first-year coach for Oak Ridge. Steve White, the 700 game winner, is the one who coached her in high school. He's still on the bench. And then they're number two seed, but McClatchy with their great coaching trio of Jessica Kunasaki and Jeff Oda and Jackie Wada, they pull the upset, seedings upset. Daisy Throckmorton, I saw her in a quarterfinal against Folsom, and she went down sometime in the third quarter and was holding onto her knee and was in agony and was able to get off the floor on her own power. Then after the game, she broke down crying, wondering, is my knee blown? And she played last night. She had free throws that helped salt it away. We don't want anybody to get hurt, but uh, that's how tough she is. And this girl, before she went down, already had a black eye, had a band-aid above another eye on her brow. She's got bruises all up and down her body. She looks like she rolled down a mountain and showed up at the gym. But she's also a flag football player, a Sacramento Bee Player of the Year quarterback who also was the backup quarterback for the McClatchy Lions varsity football team. So rough and tumble there. Allie Marino, great coach for the St. Mary's Rams. So it'll be a good chess match there. Um, but can McClatchy, Chris Jackson pull an upset here, or is it St. Mary's so good? Because you saw St. Mary's recently against Christian Brothers, and St. Mary's looked great. But how do you beat St. Mary's?
When you've got Daisy Throckmorton, you've always got a chance. This is probably one of my favorite stories. Is Sean Holko was waiting to interview her after a game, and she goes straight into the weight room and is getting a lift in right after a game. That's just who she freaking is. Ultra competitive, always finds a way to win. Kudos to their coaches, Oda, Kunasaki. Are they favorites for Coach of the Year? I don't think many of us expected them to be back in the spot and to beat some of these teams on the road like they have. Folsom, Oak Ridge, now they're in the championship. St. Mary's, though, I've seen them beat San Ramon Valley, who's nationally ranked back in December. They crushed Christian Brothers, who were the top two teams in the section. With our rankings, I think a few others too. This might be as dominant of a playoff run as there's ever been. I'm not sure what the metrics are pre-Max Preps era, but these first three rounds, they've defeated teams by an average of 61.7 points. Four Rams scored in double figures last night. There's freshman Dylan Horton. Eveline Smith is 6'4", former football player too. Played football with Kenneth Moore and all those guys. She had 17 points going to Oregon State. Iania Hardy is a freshman. She had 12. Sophomore Amani Rafiq, 12. Her older brother, Mateen Rafiq, obviously hit all those threes, record breaker, all that. St. Mary's, nationally ranked too. This is probably the second best team in NorCal. There's Archbishop Mitty, and then I would say there's St. Mary's, and then there's San Ramon Valley, Clovis, those schools right there. I'm sorry, McClatchy. I just don't see a recipe for anybody in NorCal besides Mitty to defeat St. Mary's when it comes to those eventual Open Division playoffs. And maybe San Ramon Valley, led by John Cristiano, our former coach of the year last year, if they maybe get a rematch. But this St. Mary's team is just too freaking good, too deep. Alan Moreno is as good of a coach as there is in this area. The way she game plans, the attention to detail. I, I'm picking St. Mary's. I've never seen a run like this. Joe, maybe you admit you would know better than me. Have you seen a run as dominant as this where you're beating teams by an average of 61.7 points per game?
Oh, when Tom Gonzalez was the coach, and Ali Marino might have been on some of those teams. Uh, They had such great pressure defense. They suffocated teams, and so that was the norm. And then Folsom wins a section championship a couple of years ago, and then McClatchy said maybe St. Mary's clutch on this section has been broken. Well, here they are, right back again. But McClatchy, like you just said, Chris Jackson, they have a shot. They're here, and no pressure at all on McClatchy. And so that's it's always been the the private school powerhouse St. Mary's against the field, and which has been public school. And Allie Marino, by the way, still has the Sac State career record for made three-pointers and steals. So when she coaches and says she knows what she's talking about, she does. And all of her players want to go where she was, where she went, which is full ride on NCAA Division One scholarship. But I tend to agree. I've covered the McClatchy program for years. Jessica Kunisaki was the head coach when McClatchy won the state championship Division One in 2015. Jeff Oda was their top assistant. Jeff's been the head coach in the last few years. Jessica, the top assistant. Now it's reversed. No ego here. These guys are all Jeff, Jessica Kunisaki, Jackie Water are all graduates of McClatchy. There's a unique bond of McClatchy students and alums, and Jordan, you see it up at Placer, where school's that old, you're going to have people from yesteryear. They're going to come out to their old fame gym, Earl Crab Gym up in Auburn. McClatchy's got the Lions Den. That school opened in 1936 or 37. And, girls' games, boys' games, people from yesteryear come out and they love their school. So that's really cool. Jordan, the only team we haven't touched on is boys Division Four. Natomas is the top seed. They played the part. They looked the part. Brian McKenzie, our Sacramento Bee Coach of the Year 2 years ago, he's got Mano Jenkins and a bunch of guards and a bunch of experience to take on Venture Academy. That's the boys Division Four. I would expect Natomas to win, but Jordan, any thoughts on a player, a dark horse, uh, a surprise, anything that just kind of fits this whole theme?
I think kind of two on this. I mean, one, while we're touching on Natomas, I think them and Placer are kind of in the same boat of these are two programs that have been, right there for the last couple of years and just haven't gotten that section banner somehow. So it feels like, both of these groups are teams that are coming in with a little extra chips on their shoulders of, hey, this is our window, this is where we need to get it done. But I mean, how can you not be impressed with what Natomas has done so far this season? I mean, one, I know they had a little bit of a slow start, 22-9 as a team, but I mean, really since that rocky start, they have been nails. And if you look at that 22-9 start, I mean, they had a 5-point loss to McClatchy, a 6-point loss to Inderkum, beat a good Burbank team, lost to Monterey Trail by single digits, Menlo Atherton, Placer by one. Sac High, they played tough. They beat Tracy, they beat Atwater, they beat Grant. So they beat Weston Ranch. So this Natomas team, and they have a win over Venture Academy already this year too. So this Natomas team feels like this is a group to get it done. And I mean, look at their playoff scores: 117-33 against Highland, 108-50 against Union Mine, 85-40 against Colfax. I saw this Colfax team play on Friday. They're no slouch. Holding that team to 40 points is no joke. Scoring 85 on them is no joke. Just feels like this is kind of the Natomas team that's chomping at the bit. So I think that's going to be an interesting one. Then the dark horse of this too, that I think could really, if we're going to see a low seed win this, look no further than Bayer in that Division III boys game against Placer. I think Placer is the favorite in this. Like I said, similar to Natomas, they've been knocking at the door for so long. It just feels like, hey, this has got to be your year to get it done. They're 28-3. I believe that's a school record for wins now in a season. And if you look at their schedule, everyone but 5 teams they've played, and I think it's 7 total games because one of them was league, or 2 of the opponents were league, but all but 5 of their opponents made the playoffs in some capacity. So they are battle tested. But I mean, this Bayer team is a team that can make some noise. They're 26-6. They're coming into this on a 19-game winning streak, so they're coming in confident. They have wins over Ripon Christian, win over Atwater, a strong Sonora team. They played Grigori close. They played a good game against Venture Academy in that D4 game. And I mean, looking at this postseason, double-digit win over Oakdale and a 18-point win over Casa Roble, who is a 2 seed. So I think Bayer it's crazy to call him a dark horse because, it's the championship game. But hey, if you have a 7 seed playing for it, and I think sometimes too, when you're that 7 seed going into that championship game, you're thinking, look, we're already playing with house money. Let's, try a few things, hit a few shots, see who gets hot. And, you could find yourself in it. We saw El Capitan too this last year as a 10 seed, and they jumped on Christian Brothers. I want to say they had like a 12-point lead at one point in that game. before Christian Brothers came back. I expect to see Bayer kind of come out in a similar manner of, hey, let's just come out, try jump on them early and, see. And I think that's going to be one of the better games of the weekend too. But those would be the dark horses is, this Bayer team. And then, yeah, kind of what you alluded to earlier, Chris, of it's interesting to see this McClatchy girls team of can they make a run? But yeah, I think the interesting thing is going to be, it almost feels like the one seeds in that with Placer and Natomas are dark horses in a way because they've gotten so close. So it's going to be, hey, is this the year you get over the hump, or is this going to be the year that, you're upset and we get a low seed winning?
Yeah, no, good stuff. And Chris, we're going to sign off on a baseball note. We got high school baseball starting up. De La Salle is a brand name in this country for high school sports, certainly in football, great things in baseball, and basketball. But something bad went down with the De La Salle baseball team. What are you hearing? What are you finding out? They have suspended the team for 5 games. What do you know? And I'm going to preface this, it's all over social media, especially in the Bay Area. Well, De La Salle, they never do this in football. Well, they don't have these problems in football, and they will not cut corners because it's an old cliche. They hold people to higher standard. I've talked to Justin Allenball. He's an alum of the schools, a longtime football coach, and he said, we won't tolerate bad behavior, whether it's on the field, off the field, sportsmanship, violation of team conduct. We will hold you accountable. And obviously, Chris Jackson, that's what they're doing in baseball. What kind of ripples there will there be forfeits? So how do you size it up?
So those are due to conduct violations. I'm not really sure what those are. These are also minors, and maybe a couple of the kids are 18 at this point. They're still minors. I'm not gonna, even if I found out, I'm not gonna say what that is because they're teenage kids, right? They're minors. There's all those different rules with it, but they've got suspension for 5 games. Now, those games will become forfeits if their opponents on the schedule of these first 5 games do not find other opponents to fill that. They've got a game against St. Mary's of Stockton, which could easily be a preview of, let's say, the NorCal final come June 6th, right? There's the Jesuits on the schedule. There's a lot of good games that they've got that unfortunately cannot be played right now. That stinks because you would have loved to have seen De La Salle playing St. Mary's. I think it would have been this Saturday where De La Salle's got Tyler Spangler, projected top 5 pick. St. Mary's has Nico Bavaro going to UCLA. They've got Dax Hardcastle, a third baseman pitcher who's going to Mississippi State, having pro scouts to look at him too. It's unfortunate we can't see this, but De La Salle goes to show you that there's more important things than winning, right? They're trying to develop men. It's that Spartan way, as they always say, right? It's the De La Salle way, the Spartan way. You don't just send your kids to De La Salle to win games, right? You send them to play De La Salle football, De La Salle basketball, to play for Coach Schroeder in basketball, to play for Allen Ball in football, and obviously the great Ladisser, who's retired 1 game before a historic mark, which goes to show you didn't care, right? That's the kind of guy you want your kid to play for because they're going to develop you into men, into leaders that are going to win. It's cool. They're going to win section championships, all this stuff, play for state. But what's more important in De La Salle is winning in 20 years and winning in 40 years and becoming a great husband, a great father, a great uncle, a great brother, a great friend is the biggest thing. And De La Salle's holding this program accountable. That's 5 games. We'll see if forfeitures do come out of this, if opponents cannot schedule games. Some of them probably can. There's always stuff that happens with, right, rain, postponements, cancellations. Sometimes dates don't match up to reschedule a game because of rain, especially last week. It felt like it rained every single day. I know it rained last night as well, leaving some of our basketball games. So we'll see how that goes. De La Salle is still projected to make a run. I think they're top 30, top 40 in America. Again, they got a projected top 5 pick. They won NCS, they won NorCal last year, got revenge on Granada, who had beaten them, I think, in the E-Ball Championship in the regular season and the year before when Granada beat them in the NCS final in a game that went 2 days before Granada beat them in NorCal's and then ended up winning the NorCal title over St. Mary's, right? So I wouldn't be surprised to still see De La Salle make that ultimate run and play a St. Mary's, play a Sarah, whoever it is, when it comes to NorCal stuff. Holding kids accountable, it shakes up a lot of things early in the season. We'll see what it does late. If things do become forfeitures, how does that affect their ranking, their computer metrics, especially, right? That's where going to take the biggest hit is that type of stuff with their max preps rating and having forfeitures on the schedule. And obviously, if you lose to St. Mary's anyway, that's not a bad loss. That's not a bad thing on the resume. Jesuits, a loaded team again, always are. So we'll see what the ultimate ripple effects are in 3 months if there really are any in terms of De La Salle making a run.
Yeah, it's De La Salle is a powerhouse in Contra Costa, the Greater Bay Area, but with a state and national appeal. And good for them. And their school even put out a statement about all of that. Just kids are kids, but you can't bend the rules, and you get caught, and it's doom. And it's not just a handful of players. There's the whole team is on ice. So that's going to do it for today's Three Stooges podcast. High school basketball section championships this weekend. We applaud the coaches, we applaud the players, the rooting sections, the band directors getting their bands out there, the activities directors, guys like Mike Sabins up in Placer. They're the behind the scenes grunt guys getting stuff done. And so we'll see some good shows at Golden One. It's a great value for the dollar. If you want to go and see it live, nothing better than live. But the NFHS will carry all these games. The great Matthew Bissett will be on the call. I'm not sure if Matthew sits most of the games, but he's pretty active. But a real treat to play at Golden One of the premier basketball venues in America. So Joe Davidson, Jordan Georgeson, and Chris Jackson will still see everybody real soon. And thanks for tuning in every week. We appreciate everybody.